They call themselves the Acolytes of Magneto, an emerging cult of radical extremists.
You know what is the most essential quality you must possess to become a part of some cult? Having the most tragic and darkest past that pushes you towards blind faith and fanaticism. Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk about fanaticism, cults, and hero worshipping, but all from the aspect of a fictional cult from the X-Men universe. Yes, I'm talking about the Acolytes, the cult that worshipped Magneto as their messiah. Acolytes are once again back in talks thanks to the recently released episode of X-Men 97 Season 2 titled Strange Land, Savage Heart. They capture a mutant-hating presidential candidate, Graydon Creed, the son of Sabretooth and Mystique. Now, in order to save Creed from captivity, the X-Men would have to fight the cult and its most fanatical leader, Exodus. So in case you missed out on the details, let me reintroduce you to some of the most important members of the group, some of whom you may have spotted in the episode. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I'd like to introduce you to the most foundational belief of the cult and the reason for its existence. First introduced in X-Men Volume 2, Issue Number 1 in 1991 by Chris Claremont and Jim Lee, the Acolytes are a group of Magneto's staunch followers. It is Fabian Cortez who first gathered some mutants under the name of this cult organization, who followed Magneto's teachings as their holy scripture. They all wear red suits with golden motifs that give them a very sharp and regal look. Any philosophy that existed beyond Magneto's ideology, like Charles Xavier's idea of peaceful coexistence, was heretical to them. But ironically, it is Fabian Cortez who betrayed Magneto during the fall of Asteroid M. After Magneto comes back and exposes Fabian's hypocrisy, the cult leader gets replaced by Exodus. Exodus then reforms the group, especially during the Fatal Attraction storyline, moving to a new base called Avalon, and getting more mutants with traumatic pasts before its eventual disbandment. Since the episode draws particularly from the Fatal Attractions and Avalon era, while also incorporating Holocaust from the Age of Apocalypse reality, let's discuss some of the members connected to those stories. Exodus. Benet Dupali. Benet Dupali, aka Exodus, is an Omega-level mutant belonging to 12th century France. He's the most dedicated and enthusiastic leader of the cult, and one of the crusaders of mutant kind. He always believed that their kind, which is best known as Homo superior, is literally the most superior form of humans. To talk about his origin story, let's travel back to medieval France, where he used to be a knight, and a nobleman working alongside his closest friend, Eobard Garrington, known as the Black Knight of that time. During an extremely dangerous trek through a desert, Exodus was seeking powers, and the ancient mutant Apocalypse was drawn in to manipulate the traveler. It was Apocalypse who gave him the moniker Exodus, giving him more strength, but in return, demanding his blind obedience. Although it worked initially, Apocalypse made an ultimate demand, the murder of Garrington at the hands of Exodus. It enraged Exodus, so he simply refused to take the order and called Apocalypse a false god. This made the matter worse, as an angry Apocalypse kept him trapped for a millennium on top of the Swiss Alps. After centuries of being trapped there, he was finally rescued by Magneto. So, as usual, Exodus, indebted to Magneto, followed him blindly in a world where mutants were hated and hunted all the time. He willingly joined the cult organization of Acolytes, replacing Fabian Cortez. Now, for Exodus, his hate actually derived from his orthodoxy and his staunch inclination towards faith, which also strengthened his mutant powers, by the way. Throughout his tenure in the cult, he fought with the X-Men as well as the mutant-hating government organization. But ultimately, after the Messiah complex, when mutants were decimated, he saved Charles Xavier from a brain wound and hoped that he would take the leadership of their group, but Xavier flatly rejected the offer. So Exodus had no other choice but to disband the group and leave for a pilgrimage. During the Krakoan era, we also saw him as a member of the Quiet Council, where he was more invested in the nation of mutants than in one single messiah like Magneto. His fanaticism was actually waning over time until one day he realized that blind faith would only destroy the lives of mutants. However, during the Krakoan fall, he took up his messianic personality and saved many lives of the mutants. His powers are really incredible, ranging from telekinesis to subatomic manipulation. He can generate energy blasts and mental blasts to attack his enemies, which means he has some sort of telepathic powers as well. Also, he can fix wounds like he once fixed an entire brain wound of Professor X after he was shot in the head. Exodus is gifted with near immortality, but X-Men 97 put an end to his character in the 7th episode. After the cult captured Graydon Creed and brought him to their newly reformed base, the X-Men wanted to negotiate with them for Creed's release. Nightcrawler challenged them to hold a just trial for Creed in order to punish him rightfully. But when Colossus, as the judge of the trial, was confused whether or not to declare him guilty, Exodus launched a sudden attack on him. He also grabbed Creed to finish him off, but Creed, who was set loose from his hold, grabbed a gun and shot Exodus in the chest. It perhaps killed the leader of the Acolytes, but in the classic comics, he never really had such an encounter with Graydon Creed. It is the writers of the X-Men 97 series who reinterpreted the lore of the Acolytes and their leader, Exodus. Colossus, Pyotr Rasputin. Well, we're heading into the category of traumatic backstory involving deaths of family and a troubled childhood, so let's start with Pyotr Peter Rasputin, aka Colossus. Colossus used to be a gentle soul, a nice guy whose most innate nature was to create art rather than to do violence, but fate had different plans for him. His mutant powers can transform his whole body into indestructible steel, which makes him the most valuable fighter in the X-Men. He was raised in a humble village on a collective farm where he grew up with his older brother Mikhail and younger sister Illyana, aka Magic. His life was peaceful, but Charles Xavier brought him into the world of mutants where he needed to protect his fellow men. His older brother Mikhail was lost and presumably dead. Even he himself became a target of anti-mutant violence during the Mutant Massacre. He suffered brutal physical trauma and had his body paralyzed for a while. His ultimate blow came when his sister Illyana was affected by the legacy virus that killed her. Colossus could no longer hold back his grief and rage against the anti-mutant sentiment, and lost all hope in Professor Xavier's peaceful idea of coexistence. So when one day Magneto offered the mutants to join him in the Acolytes, Colossus unexpectedly changed his side and joined the cult. But even though he fought alongside the usual members, he never wanted unnecessary bloodshed. During the fall of Avalon, when the Holocaust attacked them, Colossus helped the mutants escape through a podway to Earth. However, in the end, Colossus's devotion toward Magneto and the Acolytes withered away. So he left the group and joined Kitty Pryde in a British mutant organization called Excalibur. When the cure for the legacy virus was discovered, Colossus volunteered for its activation process. The antivirus needed an airborne activation through the death of a mutant, so to spare anyone from this sacrifice, Colossus took it upon himself and perished after it was injected into him. Although later he was resurrected, no one in X-Men really dies for long enough to call it a permanent death. In X-Men 97 Episode 7, Colossus losing his sister becomes a pivotal moment and inspiration behind his joining the Acolytes, but Illyana, here, didn't die of the viral infection. Rather, she died during the fall of Genosha, while fighting against the four-headed Wild Sentinel. This is the turning point of Colossus's life when he decided to join the cult in order to punish every anti-mutant personally. And that's why he didn't have any problem capturing Graydon Creed during his presidential campaign. However, Nightcrawler persuaded Colossus to hold a trial and become the moral judge of it. When Nightcrawler talked about Graydon's past and his traumatic childhood, Colossus understood that Creed was just like them, haunted and betrayed by the people who were supposed to take care of him. During the massive fight, Colossus changed sides and helped the X-Men defeat the Acolytes. Nightcrawler managed to save Creed from the threat as promised, and later brought Colossus back to the X-Mansion, where Colossus shared that his verdict could have been not guilty for Creed, but thinking that it would hurt his sister Illyana, he changed his mind. Rusty Collins. I think Rusty, Skids, and Random are these three members of the Acolytes Club with the most tragic background that will force you to acknowledge their anti-human stance and devotion towards Magneto. You might remember this guy from Deadpool 2, but his actual origin story is a lot different. Russell Rusty Collins, aka Fire Fist, didn't really have a pivotal role in X-Men 97 Episode 7, but you can check out glimpses of him when the Acolytes interrupted Creed's presidential speech. You can spot the red-haired Rusty alongside other members of the group like Frenzy, Remram, Random, Skids, and Colossus. He was primarily hunted by the military, detained, and imprisoned by the anti-mutant government organization, mind-controlled by the terrorists, and eventually killed by Holocaust. Written and illustrated by Bob Layton and Jackson Geiss, Rusty first appeared in X Factor #1. His career started as a 16-year-old boy in the U.S. Navy, but during their docking at San Diego while kissing a girl for the first time, his pyrokinetic energy activated, severely burning the woman. This incident led to the anti-mutant government agents and military to recognize Rusty as a threat. So they pursued him, but the X Factor saved him and brought him to their base, where he learned to tame his powers and met Skids for the first time, falling in love with her. During the invasion of Inferno, he also fought alongside X-Terminators and joined the New Mutants. But it was Magneto who showed him the real act of kindness. After they were captured and brought to sign a Mutant Registration Act, he and Skids both wanted to run away from custody, but it helped Strife, the leader of an extremist group, Mutant Liberation Front (MLF), capture and brainwash them into becoming the enforcers of the front. But Magneto stepped in, rescuing the mutant couple from Strife's manipulation. This is where Rusty and Skids became obedient to Magneto and willingly joined the Acolytes. Rusty got the pyrokinetic powers, as I said, which are his strength as well as his weakness, when he didn't even know how to control them. He could ignite the flame at extreme heat that melts concrete, steel, and other metallic items. He could even create his own heat force field without igniting flames and hurting anyone in his surroundings. His body automatically creates a shield to protect itself from its own raging heat inside. However, in spite of having such powers, in deep space things went tragically wrong, as the Acolytes obtained a mysterious cocoon that contained Holocaust, the villainous mutant survivor, who drains life force out of an individual. When the Holocaust got out, it attacked Avalon and unleashed a massacre. He captured Rusty Collins and horribly killed him by draining the life out of his body, right in front of his beloved Skids. Skids, aka Sally Blevins' journey, is very similar to Rusty's journey from X Factor to the Acolytes, as the two became a couple, intensely in love with each other, and that's why Rusty's death became another of the most traumatic incidents of her already tragic life. Same as Rusty, X-Men 97 Episode 7 doesn't deal with her arc in much detail, as we see her only in a few glimpses, so let's look into her core origin story and how she ended up in the Acolytes. Well, Sally Blevins first appeared in X Factor #7, published in 1986, and was created by Louise Simonson and Jackson Geiss. She had a deeply disturbing family with an abusive stepfather who literally killed her mother over a domestic quarrel and came for Sally when her force field activated for the first time, giving her protection. Her father ran away in fear, but it left the little girl with unimaginable trauma. She left her home and went to live in the sewers, where she met the Morlocks, the underground mutant community. There, she used her mutant powers like high-speed skating on any kind of surface, like water or walls, without having friction under her feet. Her skating power is what gave her the nickname Skids, although her powers went beyond just speed. She could effortlessly create force fields around her to protect herself as well as others in her vicinity from external attacks. But just like Rusty, her powers became a curse for her existence. She has also been hunted by the police and anti-mutant humans. While the police and government agents were looking for Rusty, she's the one who protected him. But while both of them tried to escape from a government facility, Strife's mind manipulation trapped them under the banner of MLF. As Exodus and Magneto became their ultimate saviors, Skids joined the Acolytes voluntarily. During the Holocaust's attack on Avalon, she saw her boyfriend getting killed in front of her eyes, which couldn't have been more traumatic for her. But her willpower and mutant force field helped her to stay alive, until Jean Grey and the X-Men rescued her. After Acolytes was gone, she decided to leave affiliation with the mutant-protecting organizations and enrolled in college. After graduation, she joined the Los Angeles branch of the X Corporation, where she taught and assisted the mutants. Finally, her strong resume, including her time in X Factor as well as in Acolytes, helped her get a job in S.H.I.E.L.D. as an agent. Maybe if Rusty were to live, he would have chosen to step away from the Acolytes, because fanaticism and stubborn ideology would only take you so far. On the contrary, Skids left the group because neither Magneto's teachings nor the cult's orthodoxy could save the love of her life from his impending doom. Random. Another tragically wronged character in Acolytes is Random, whose transformation from an insecure young boy to a super bulky tough dude is weird but iconic. Known as Marshall Evans Stone III and born in Albany, New York, Random was just a teenage boy who realized his mutant powers of having a moldable, protoplasmic body whose gelatinous form was out of his control. So to give him a solution, Dark Beast entered the picture and stabilized him, but in return he demanded nothing but utmost servitude. Actually, Random was still a young, skinny boy, but to protect himself from outer threats and to use his mutant powers to become a strong bounty hunter, he shapeshifted into a tall, bulky, masculine guy with an angry young man's personality. Not just that, he could morph his hands into some really cool bioorganic guns, all thanks to his protoplasmic body. But the most interesting thing about him is the reactive powers that help him even mimic a reactionary power. Like if he's attacking Polaris, he would create an anti-magnetic field. Dark Beast saw great potential in him, so he made him his own personal assassin. Having no one close to him, Random also created an artificial mother figure called Vera, who lived in Albany, but Dark Beast made him reabsorb her, leaving no chance to torture him. Well, he was looking for a way out, so when the opportunity came for him to work alongside the X-Men, he developed a friendship with them and a crush on Polaris. During the time, Dark Beast also ordered him to capture Havoc, but Random turned against him and helped Havoc evade an attack. In Neverland, Random was captured and heavily tortured, but he survived. After M-Day, the day Scarlet Witch spoke the words "No more mutants," and almost a large section of the mutant community in the world lost their powers, he felt displaced and needed a shelter to have some assurance. This triggered him to get into the Acolytes, where he fought alongside Tempo and Frenzy. He also sided with the Marauders during the Messiah Complex, but after this, when the group was eventually dissolved, he went to Utopia, the island sanctuary. Afterwards, he had multiple affiliations with groups of mutants, like working with the X-Men to save Utopia from Nimrod, joining a group like the Brotherhood of Mutants under the leadership of Joseph, a Magneto clone, before finally becoming a member of SWORD, recruited by Abigail Brand. In Episode 7 of X-Men 97, we see some glimpses of Random, with his hand shape-shifting into massive guns and attacking Graydon Creed during his anti-mutant speech. Tempo. And finally, ending the video with the most underrated mutant member of the Acolytes, Tempo, aka Heather Tucker, whose powers of time manipulation often stay unexplored in the screen adaptations. Even in X-Men 97 Episode 7, we didn't get a chance to see her in her full potential, although the story of this episode in particular wasn't shaped around her character. But worry not, since I'm going to get it covered. Tucker has the powers of chronokinetic energy, which means she can literally alter the flow of time around her, slowing down her enemies or sometimes accelerating her own speed to some supersonic level to attack her enemies. She can also do temporal manipulation to combat at high speed. First appearing in New Mutants number 86 through 87, created by Louise Simonson and Rob Liefeld, Tempo had a slightly similar journey to Random, mostly after their Acolytes affiliation. She started as a reluctant villain in the MLF, or Mutant Liberation Front, led by Strife. It was an extremist group that ordered the assassination of mutant-hating organizations. For example, MLF once ordered an attack on a medical clinic that ran prenatal testing of mutant babies. She was strongly against the bloodshed, so she tipped off X-Factor to prevent the attack, and later found out that the founder of the clinic, Dr. Tucker, was in fact her father. Strife was, however, replaced by Rainfire, an even more cruel leader of MLF. He ordered Tempo to kill a government official, Henry Peter Gyrich, but then again she decided against it. As she was in exile, Cable offered her a place in X-Force, but she rejected it. Later, when M-Day occurred, which didn't affect Tempo but left her in the middle of a disorganized mutant community, she joined the Acolytes in order to find a true purpose. During her journey in the Acolytes, she attacked S.H.I.E.L.D. rated helicopters and tracked down the enemies. Just like Random, she too joined the Marauders, recruited by Kate Pryde and Lucas Bishop. She has a great capability of traveling in time because of her chronokinetic energy. She even traveled a long time back in the past, where she recovered an entire ancient civilization of Threshold. So you can really imagine how strong and dangerous she can be. I think Tempo needs some really good screen presentation in the Marvel animated or cinematic universe, because a mutant with time-manipulating powers is rare to find in the X-Men. So that's it, guys. Here are the top 6 members of the Acolytes that I've just covered in this video. These members are important for you to know the core fatal attractions and Age Apocalypse-related lore about the cult. But it contains many more such mutants, such as Frenzy, Marco Delgado, Chrome, Amelia Vault, and many more, who devotedly followed Magneto's words and considered humans as their threat. So, I'm gonna come back with more such lore videos on X-Men, but until then, please hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. Goodbye, and see you in the next one.